everyone, welcome back to the Creative Shelf, and you're joining me on a cold, dry evening in Brussels. It's about to snow any moment now, which basically means I'm not really sure if my evening plans are going ahead, but hey, it was a bit of snow every now and then, and I don't know if anybody else relates to this. I think a lot of people do, but I'm one of those people that thinks snow is beautiful and it's pretty and it's nice, and then like after a bit when it becomes all slushy and then it becomes black ice on the pavements, and then I'm kind of like trying not to break my neck every time I go outside. That's when I'm just kind of like, okay, I'm done with this now. So yeah, I have kind of like a relationship with snow where I like it at the beginning and I'm just like, okay, I'm so over it. But apart from that, yes, you're joining me in Brussels this evening, and this is not a mini panther, even though he looks like it. This is my beautiful baby cat, and yeah, so so welcome back. So today I'm doing my dive into, yes, you've guessed it from the title of this video, it is right, we are looking at the Llewellyn deck of the Forest of Enchantment. This deck has been around for some time now. It's 2019 copyright, as I so-called understand. The author is the lovely Linnea Weatherston, who is based in Portland, Oregon, and the illustrator is, now hopefully I don't butcher her name completely, but it's Marilla Allwood. It's a mass market deck, as many of you know. It's very, very popular, and I've got an interesting relationship in the run-up to this deck, because basically, yeah, I saw it last year. It was everywhere. It was on like Book Depository. It was like a must-have and all these kind of things, and it looks so, so beautiful, and it looks so gorgeous, and it looks so pretty, and everybody kept saying how wonderful it is, but I couldn't understand what was so good about it. Like, it was really interesting. Like, most of the time when I see people use this deck, it's from the perspective maybe of art or imagery, but I couldn't get down to like, okay, what is it? And one of the things that I kind of like was intrigued by is because I am in the forest a lot. As you all know, I love to go running. I go running like 4 times a week, and I go into like the city forest kind of like area. So here we have Bois de la Cambre, and next to Bois de la Cambre there's Forêt de Soignes, and I absolutely love those kind of like places because you just get a lot of space, and I don't see a huge building right next to my face basically. So yeah, so something like this is right up my street. And believe it or not though, I only bought this at the end of October last month. I kind of like really waited until I thought, yeah, I'm going to do the review now, and then I picked it up. And I think it's because it's twofold. One, I knew I was going to get the deck, so I wasn't really in a big rush to buy it straight away. It was almost like it's a done deal. I'm definitely going to get this deck and check it out. But the other part of it is I slightly was thinking, is this just another fad? Is this just another deck which looks pretty and it's got lovely animals all over it, and then what? So so I don't know. There was a bit of moment where I was like, am I just buying something which looks good, but I mean, like, what's inside basically? So anyway, without further ado, this is the backs of the cards. I had a really fun time edging it. I originally edged it in this beautiful green, and then I tried to be clever and add more to it because I was bored, and it kind of like messed up. So I had to redo it with this black gray kind of like color, and now it's kind of like this very dark green basically, which matches in a way the backs. But anyway, here's my edging, and the images are absolutely gorgeous. It's got, I mean, it's a deck where if you fan it out like that, you can already see it, right? Just all these beautiful arrays of greens, some blues in there, some lovely browns basically, just really gorgeous earthy, foresty energy. But this is a great deck. Somebody had asked in one of the forums, like, I'm a Taurus, what would be a great deck for me? This is a great deck if you're an earth sign, Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn. Beautiful, definitely for the Taurians actually, because it's so earthy. And the Taurians, because they're ruled by this Venus energy, they love kind of like beauty. They love like that what we see on the outside. They're very much into that. So this deck aesthetically, I think, would appeal to a lot of Taurians. But hey, I'm not a Taurus. I'm a Virgo rising, and I still love it. So who cares? But yeah, I absolutely love the images, like many people have already said. But the colors are absolutely breathtaking, and you can't see it so much on this camera, but the attention to detail is gorgeous. Now, I read in the guidebook that the original original kind of like images that were done by the illustrator, they're actually just slightly bigger than this card size. So it's not as if there's huge images of this and then they've been kind of like cropped and cut into this kind of like size. They're actually, so she has worked painstakingly, that's what I'm thinking, in order to create this deck. And I was completely mesmerized by it. But I began to use it at the beginning of November, and I really thought, honestly speaking, I thought it'd be like a cute deck, you know. I thought it'd be nice and cute. But the more I used it, the more I began to realize that it's not so cute. And the point that really got to me in this card was that this deck was that it has some really great archetypal energy, kind of like energies relating to thoughts about, you know, what it is like in terms of parents, in terms of children, in terms of community spirit. And I was really, really taken aback by this deck. It's really a deck which explores like wonder to justice and justice of the woods, to having visions, being able to hold your vision, basically, making decisions, finding the right tools. The whole deck just spoke such a beautiful language. And as I worked through it, what was really lovely is, of course, the author is from Suffolk, England, which is amazing. So I really just saw a lot of the English countryside again, and there's a lot more rolling hills in England compared to continental Europe. So, well, some parts of continental Europe, sorry, I should say. But it kind of like reminded me of like that southern England feel. So yeah, it was a deck that just really, really grabbed me in terms of that vibe. But the thing that really, intrigued me was the archetypal energy of this deck. Now, I have been thinking, because I know a lot of people have talked about kind of like, you know, what are these reviews about? Not kind of like my review only, but tarot tubers doing reviews. So I know there's a lot of people that do beautiful walkthroughs of decks, and sometimes they're giving commentary on each card. Sometimes it's silent. Sometimes we talk all about the packaging kind of thing. Increasingly, I'm kind of like trying to find my stride as I do these reviews. And I think that for me, the way I come for these reviews, just very honestly speaking, as I kind of like mold myself on this channel, is my talk and take on these reviews is going to be more from the viewpoint of using the deck as a tool, rather than kind of like, you know, is it really worth your money? Because that's a little bit more, I find, specific to what you like. Like, this is Llewellyn cardstock. For some people, they're gonna not like it. They're gonna be like, ugh, can't stand the cardstock. I don't mind it. I'm okay with this cardstock. But yeah, for some, it's like, no, this is a deal breaker. So that's why, for me, I find that a little bit more difficult. I think other people do those reviews quite well. What I really enjoy being able to say is how I use the deck, like how I use it as a tool, or the different ways it can be used as a tool. So first and foremost, for me, this deck, as you can already see from the images, is a beautiful storytelling deck. Absolutely gorgeous. If you are someone that wants to write or just have that creativity of storytelling, you can do that with a few card pulls here. You can try using it as prompts, which I've already talked about in other videos, but it can be just so good just to sit with a card, and even just, instead of thinking, okay, this is the hangman, yes, surrender, just sit with the card and think about kind of like, you know, what that orange is creating. You know, when I look at this, I'm thinking of kind of like some kind of a crystal or a stone in creation. I'm thinking about being embalmed. I'm thinking about the chrysalis energy. So, you know, it can be just even creating keywords from an image, and from that pulling out a story, or just kind of like, you know, doing your own kind of like wild creative writing. So whatever you might feel. The other thing I like about this deck is that I think it's great for dream work. So if you've been having dreams and you want to be able to link them to something after you've jotted down a part of your dream that's kind of like really, really relevant, maybe looking for a card that reflects that or kind of like helps you to further investigate the dream. For example, if you've had a dream and there's a lot of energy of feeling lost, and as I said that, I pulled this card, energy of feeling lost. Maybe, you know, this is the deck that can help you explore what it is to feel lost, what it is to feel like you can't see the wood from the trees and that kind of energy. And this is the Eight of Challenges. This is the Eight of Swords, basically. So yeah, so, you know, it's a deck for me that really helps to go into that psyche. And so the other use for this deck, which for me this month was a really good use, was that really, really strong, beautiful archetypal energy. I really found this deck very, very useful as I was working through issues around spiritual growth. Now, some of you might say, well, what does that exactly mean for you? And it's true, like it differs, right, from each of us. But what I wanted to get at is if you're doing some work that's basically looking at things such as childhood, growing up, or even issues around relationships, work, the place within the community, what it is to be a champion, what it is to be a leader, what it is to be a follower, to be a part of a team, what it is to be a part of a family, what it is to have reprieve and take a step back. Look at a beautiful Hermit card. I found this deck really, really good in terms of that archetypal energy. And, you know, it's gorgeous in the sense that, you know, it kind of like reminds me a little bit of Tarot of the Hidden Realms because some of the faces are just so close up. But I think it's been done differently and I like it for that. So I wouldn't think it's a duplication of that. But I really, really like this deck because it's got spaces where we're out in the wide open and then it's got these kind of like enclosures. So it really is an energy for me where I'm stepping in and out. I just wanted to just say this card has come up and I'm so glad now it's come up here. You know, I'm talking about working with the archetypes and so forth, and a few months ago, so just part of my own personal story is that I'm someone that's absolutely, was petrified of dogs, absolutely, since I was like a child. And over the years, it's improved quite a bit. It's getting better, and yeah, and I think running in the woods, of course, also helps because I see a lot of dog walkers and stuff like that. So I'm kind of like getting used to it and that kind of thing. And I'm okay with a lot of dogs that I know now these days. But what was funny was that a few months ago in the summer, I had a situation, which I won't go into too much, it's really not relevant, but I ended up encountering a Belgian Malinois. And if anybody knows what a Malinois is basically a type of Belgian Shepherd. So they're smaller than a German Shepherd, they're smaller than the Alsatian that you might see. They are actually more lean, they've got a shorter coat, but they're very, very kind of like wily. They can really get into things. And I know that they're used by the US Army on missions. They're used here in Belgium as the police dog. It is the official police dog. And a Malinois is, as I understand from, like, I'm not a dog expert, but from what I understand in terms of the breeds, it is one of the most command and control dogs that you can have. And it was funny because I had an encounter with one of those just a few months ago, and it wasn't a bad encounter, but this dog was basically thinking that I'm there to, as its kind of like surrogate owner or something. It was really, really strange. And anyway, I tried to kind of like, you know, make sure that the dog is okay and sort out the situation. And this dog was just running around all around me, and I couldn't understand what was going on because I'd never seen that kind of energy before unleashed. Of course, I've seen a lot of Belgian Malinois in every day, but not all over me basically. And I was okay with him or her. I was okay with them. It was a really, really strange experience. I was able to like get them calm, get them kind of like under control. And because they're so command control oriented, it was really a scary moment for me because they were like looking at me like, you're meant to tell me what to do, basically. So anyway, I had this moment with this dog, and this was a few months ago, and it was a real learning for me, and I fell in love with the breed actually after that. But the reason why I'm saying that, I'm coming back to this card now, is because I had a really tough time like a few weeks ago where I was upset over something, and this happened to be the card that I pulled. Now this is the Black Shank, which is death basically in this pack, in this deck, and this was sitting opposite like the PC that whole day, and it was so nice actually to have this card there. It was just so comforting, which sounds really strange, right? Because people would see this and think scary, they'd think beast, they'd think, okay, it's come to take me away kind of thing. And when I was looking at this energy, all I could think was that it was there to remind me that what I think is so scary is actually not, it's not what I think. Basically, like the letting go or confronting my fears is actually really, it is a form of transformation, you know. So this was the death card coming alive to me in a completely different way from what I've usually, I don't know, it was just a new experience. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So anyway, I've had some really good times with this deck. The guidebook is excellent as usual. A lot of the Llewellyn guidebooks are. Interestingly, I have to say that last month, you know, in October, I looked at the Darkwood Tarot, but I have to say this, for me, this deck really felt a bit more like a Darkwood, if I can put it that way. It felt more like a Dark Forest, and it's funny because the colors are so vibrant in some ways, but the more I worked with it, the more I became impressed with the depth of the messages that it was giving, how it was just really, yeah, it was just really well done. Now, this is another gorgeous card, and this is the Four of Swords, the Four of Challenges, they call it. The other thing that I would just want to mention here in the guidebook, which actually was really nice, is right at the back, they have like a spread section, but I'm not really a spread fan. And what I loved about it was like they had like other kinds of pulls, like the White Heart, which is a 2-card pull. They had things like breadcrumbs and moonstones where you can split the deck in two, and then one part is for one thing, the other. They had the owls. I actually really liked the suggestions at the back. They had the Council of Animals using the as I recall, this is the Judgment card. So they have, I really did like the guidebook at the back. Normally this whole spread stuff doesn't really do anything for me, but in this guidebook, it had me intrigued. I'm going to try some of these. So yeah, so I like it when things are not too complicated. When I get spreads which are really complicated, I can do them, but I almost feel like I'm forcing energies into a space rather than having that flow, which I think I've spoken about a lot now. So I like these kind of like spreads actually that Linnea Weatherstone has suggested, because there's a lot more space in how I work through with these cards. So I'm actually intrigued. Maybe I might try another Linnea Weatherstone deck. But anyway, going back to this, I think it's a great deck. I think it's retailing around the €25 mark right now. So fairly okay for mass market prices. What else can I say? I think for me, in terms of the use of this deck, it's really a really good journey deck. That's the best way I'm going to put it. It's a really good journey deck. It's a really good deck for looking at like the different protagonists and what they bring up. This is really a deck where you can just pull a card and sit with your journal, and a lot will come out, I think. So I feel like this is a really easy deck, not in terms of newcomers. So for example, if you're new to tarot, I'm not sure, because of the fact that the suit names have been changed and the meaning, of course, all the cards won't have the Rider-Waite-Smith symbols technically. So I'm not sure if I would really suggest this if you're very new to tarot. But if you're someone that's looking for a deck to really work with as you're working through personal issues, if you're in a process, for example, if you're in a program and you're working through certain things and you're going through that bit, which is what I call sometimes the black hole, where you know, it's the dark night of the soul, and we have to kind of like look at certain issues and reflect upon them, which I've done many times, right? I've done it many times in my life, but it never you know, I'm never kind of like done. And that's the thing, right? Like, I was listening to somebody today talk about the tarot journey, and that's what I feel about the spiritual journey myself. Like, whenever I've been like working with someone and they're like, oh, I've done that, so I'm done. And I'm like, I always believe I'm done like the day that I'm going to be dead. So I'm always working on something. I'm always in that point where I'm like peeling off, you know, the layers of the onion and etc. etc. And what I love about this deck is that it feels like a very good deck, I personally think, for those that are on a journey, and they just want to use like images for reflection, I think. So yeah, I really enjoyed working with it, and I would recommend it for sure. My only thought though with this deck is that the one thing I always think is that, is this a deck, I mean, if you're not into forest energy, yeah, it's really not going to be one for you. And I think that's where there is a caveat, you know, it definitely has, it's definitely for a certain aesthetic. But yeah, I would recommend working with this deck, and I would recommend checking it out. What else can I say? I just want to say that, yeah, I think it's very good for a specific use. Would I be reading with people with this deck? Not sure. I could. I mean, I think it's easy to read with it once you know tarot. I mean, it's a very easy reader, but you know, I think it's one of those decks where it can really bring out the truth and what some people like to call a shadow, which I'm trying to avoid actually, but it can really bring out the truth or the bare bones of a situation. He keeps coming back very quickly, I think, and I think for some, it might be, I don't know, too much or too quickly, but I personally I think the images are soft enough for people to handle them, for people to be able to accept. So yeah, so not much more else to say. Thank you for joining me for this evening. It's kind of like, you know, that time of year where I'm now starting to really wrap up and think about, like, of course, I've been thinking about my 2022 goals. But now it's really kind of like firmly like, okay, if I want to do something, if I want to achieve X, how does it pan out? And I have been using a few of my tarot decks to help me with that 2022 planning, and I'm not sure if that's something that would be of interest. I don't know how people would think about that, but I think that I always see tarot as a way of kind of like, it's kind of like sometimes it's a very good way to look at a blind spot, right? Like, I can see a panacea, of things that I want to work with, and then I will pull out a card and it will give me something where I'm like, huh, I hadn't considered, my thoughts about this, or I hadn't considered kind of like, you know, working on this as an apprentice rather than a teacher. You know, it's a different kind of energy. And sometimes these cards can help me sometimes to think, if I want to work on this area, what's the energy that I need to bring to it? Is it an energy of changing my perspective? You know, is it an energy of going within and getting quiet? Or is it an energy which is kind of like of transformation? Or I keep getting the same cards, huh? Pretty strange here. Or is it an energy of kind of like balancing and juggling things and being realistic about my priorities? And I think I like to use the cards sometimes to help me think, like, you know, what's the attitude or the energy that I need to bring to this situation? So maybe that's of interest for one of these kind of like videos. So thanks for joining me, and I will see you all midweek, where I already have my topic planned. Anna, yes, I will be doing a midweek video all about, Anna from Astral Lady has just done a fantastic video on some of her pet peeves, well, not her pet peeves, sorry, but pet peeves around tarot tube that people have mentioned to her. So it's a must to check out. I think her videos are excellent. They always make me laugh, actually. and and I've also had my own kind of like thoughts on that area. So I will see you all soon next week. Take care now. Bye.